The word iota has two distinct meanings as a noun. 1. A tiny or scarcely detectable amount. 2. The ninth letter of the Greek alphabet.
Welcome to IoTA for Thursday, August 18th, 2016. I'm Tony Lynn. IoTA is a daily news podcast focused on the Internet of Things industry and a little bit of focus on Atlanta. We'll dry this morning. All right, let's get right to the stories of the day. Eric Johnson of The Street reports that the Internet of Things is more hype than reality for many tech giants. He states that in a rush to capitalize on the IoT boom, that many of the big boys have co-opted the term even though they have no offerings specific to IoT. This happened before when big data, cloud computing, cybersecurity took off as well. He states, as a result, unless a quote-unquote company goes about buying IoT-related service providers, its claims of major IoT exposure probably deserves more scrutiny. Interesting here. I actually had a conversation yesterday with a local gentleman who's very versed in IoT, and we were discussing the fact that IoT really is, it's a reuse of the systems have been there for forever. Same with big data. They talked about big data and, oh, it's a new revolution. Well, big data has been there forever. Client server, quote unquote, the cloud has been around for as long as computers have been around. So again, the new architecture, if you will, of IoT is interesting, and some of the bigger boys, knowing that it's a hot topic, let's face it, I know it's a hot topic. That's why I'm doing this. It kind of rushed out to, kind of take that name and go, yeah, we're offering all this really cool stuff when they really don't have an offering for it. A lot of them do. A lot of them don't. Someone like Verizon, if you notice, are actually buying up companies that kind of fill this niche. And I think that's where the smart plays are, is that we don't know what we're doing necessarily. We're going to say we got IoT, but we're going to go out and buy some folks who we know do IoT, and then therefore we can actually, we're legit. So I think this is going to continue, and I think a lot of companies, even the smaller companies, are going to start co-opting the term just because they can, get some market share because of it. I mentioned too that before, that when I first became interested in IoT back in April of this year, that looking on LinkedIn, just within the Atlanta area, there were maybe a handful of people who had IoT in their titles, and now there's thousands of people with IoT in their titles. So this is going to get worse before it gets better. Now, good news is that there is actually some gains going on here, and I'm interested to see how this goes. So I'm curious. Your homework for today is to give me an example of a company who is claiming to be IoT specific, but actually has none. And if you let me know, I'll report it here. All right, moving along. Traffic flows better with Digi IoT-based traffic management, writes Deepak Puri in Network World. With traffic consistently getting worse, in Atlanta, we have some of the worst in the nation, with the exception of Los Angeles. Digi is focused on solving these woes. They're using 4 types of sensors to do this. Inductive loop sensors, which is buried into the pavement. Cameras, which actually monitor traffic flow and lane changes and speeds. A preemptive transmitter, so imagine an emergency vehicle, whether it's police or ambulance or whatever, that it can actually trigger traffic lights, so that as you're coming up to the lights, it clears it for you, you can get through. And enforce smart traffic signs. We have this in Atlanta now. Some of you who are listening who drive around the 285 will see the speed limit lights that change as traffic conditions get better or worse. And so it actually kind of lets you know in advance that if it says 35, then up ahead you've got a problem, and you better start slowing down now to actually prevent other problems. You also have the overhead signage, which actually shows or can explain what might be going on at any time. All these things are part of what Digi's bringing to the forefront. So the Digi Transport WR31 4GE LTE router is designed to, for the traffic monitoring and control. So it sits in relation to the 4 sensors and transmits that data back out to the cloud. And data collected during rush hour is actually used to adjust traffic lights to make traffic flow efficient as possible. Now, there's, of course, some concerns here that the system could be hacked and actually cause more gridlock than it solves. But did you assure everyone that extra care is being taken to ensure security? Interesting. The next story is actually going to kind of talk a little bit about this, but can you imagine traffic getting worse because all the lights are shut down? Anybody who lives here in Atlanta who's actually tried to driven through Buckhead at rush hour in the afternoon notes that traffic lights are almost meaningless, that they actually have a traffic cop at every light to conduct the flow because even the traffic signals just can't keep up. All right, so imagine thousands of hackers all attacking you at one time. That's exactly what can happen if your device is taken over as part of a botnet attack. Ben Dixon of TechCrunch tells us how you can prevent your IoT devices from being forced into botnet bondage. That sounds interesting. Recently, a brick and mortar jewelry store here in the States lost access to its online resources during a major multi-stage DDoS attack. The culprit was 25,000 compromised closed circuit television cameras scattered throughout the world. Ben likens these devices to an undying loyal armies of zombie machines. The primary issue is that manufacturers and developers, they have to patch all the security holes, whereas a hacker only has to find one. And in this case, he found one, used it to basically create a botnet that all 25,000 had, and then turned around and attacked a particular jewelry store all at once. So whereas a standard DDoS attack probably has a lot less, entry vectors, in something like this, when you've got 25,000, your system's coming down. There's just no way around it. So stopping such attacks require constant vigilance and limiting devices to only perform the actions needed and to turn off unneeded features. So if you don't need the extra connectivity, turn it off. And if you only need it to report certain things, then you don't give it the ability to do it all. Now, you and I know that doesn't always work, but in fact, the first understanding the problem first is the first step to controlling it, and knowing that this exists is out there. Now, this may not be Skynet, but it's pretty damn close. All right. Business Insider reports that IoT security was on full display in this year's Black Hat conference. It's a plethora of security today. Three primary areas were hot topics: vehicle security, the cloud, and general device security. Some points of interest were that companies that operate critical infrastructure sites reported 295 cyber incidents in 2015, up from 245 in 2014. I bet that if they had the data for this year, it would already exceed that, and the year's not even over. So hackers are targeting the industrial control systems that operate critical infrastructure because of the enormous damaging caused by crippling such infrastructure. Industrial control systems typically weren't designed to be connected to the internet, although now they have been. So they weren't built with cybersecurity capabilities to ward off hackers. So literally they have no real way to stop things, even though it's becoming very, very critical. The hack that caused the blackout in Ukraine served as a blueprint for some of the hackers that they use to target critical infrastructures. And this is actually, they're using that as a way to now stop or to help prevent this. So even though the attack in Ukraine, which was devastating and took the system offline, they say it could have easily have been prevented, or at least controlled a lot better by adding just additional access controls, and even building better firewalls for the systems. So all right, so moving along, and the final story of the day is Stephanie Condon reports that ZDNet, that Intel has laid out its 5G IoT strategy. At their international conference recently, Intel demonstrated in multiple ways how it's aiming to provide the processing power for those machines. So Intel, as we've been reporting, trying to get back in and would be part of the IoT system. Now, I didn't report on it, but I just listened to the Daily Tech News Show with Tom Merritt this morning, where he was actually talking about how Intel and ARM are getting together. And I'll find that story for you and report it tomorrow. But continuing on with this one, the chip maker introduced multiple modules designed for all sorts of IoT applications. The Joule Maker Board, for instance, enables people to quickly and cheaply take an IoT concept from prototype all the way into its production. The system-owned module, equipped with Intel's RealSense camera, is a low-power package that could be used for robotics, industrial IoT, VR, and other applications. Meanwhile, the Euclid Developer Kit is effectively a self-contained computer built for robotics. It has an Intel Atom processor, onboard communications, motion and position sensors, and a battery. During this, the Intel CEO Brian Krasandzik's keynote address, another executive heavyweight from GE, Jeff Immelt, joined him on stage, and when he talked a little bit about some of the IoT things. And so Jeff was actually quoted as saying, industrial productivity has really declined as of late. Old IT tools are really not getting it done. In the case of GE, we basically say every industrial company has to transform to be a digital company. This is not a choice. You either embrace the future or you're not going to satisfy the needs of your customer. That being said, industrial IoT won't be as cloud-based as on the consumer side. It'll actually be a lot more on the edge to use the process the data. And they actually threw out an example about using Intel Atom processors for street lamps. Anyway, the fact of it is Intel is betting heavily, and other manufacturers or other companies come along with them. And that's the stories for today. So please send any feedback or story ideas to my email address. It's at tonamuck@gmail.com. You can find me at Tonamuck on Twitter, or you can see any of my projects at www.tonamuck.com. If you're enjoying the podcast and you want to see more and you want to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Tonamuck. Until tomorrow, have a great day.